Welcome to Return to Athens. This week we go ringside in South Africa. The main stadium continues to cover up. And how the internet's helping to fund an Olympic team. All that and more as we return to Athens. Firstly on the program, we go ringside to profile Kotso Mateu, a South African medal hopeful. Most mornings along the streets in the impoverished township of Soweto, you'll find Kotso pounding the pavement on his way to Dubai Boxing Club, which set South African icon Baby Jack Matlala on the road to his 4 WBU junior flyweight victories. Soweto, once a battleground for protests by students against the former apartheid system that ironically kept South Africa from competing at the Games, has more than 20 boxing gyms. Sports-crazy South Africa is mad about boxing. Among the country's black majority, only a football pitch draws a bigger crowd than the boxing ring. Boxing is viewed as a path away from the abject poverty and the criminal activity that makes life hard for so many black South Africans. Nevertheless, middleweight Kotso Mateu is confident that he can last the distance and bring home a gold medal.
Well, it's my first time going to the Olympics, so my chances, when I talk of chances, I also want to achieve it in the Olympics. Sure. So I'm prepared to bring a medal now. That's what I'm going to work on.
Mateu's trainer, Steve Masiki, and the Dubai's club founder, the elderly Teo Mathembu, have high hopes for the 22-year-old.
Kotso is one of those little guys who can go anywhere, and one of the greatest fighters, dedicated little boy. And, you know, it's always like there's something driving him from behind.
Mateu, a left-hander or southpaw, is one of 2 boxers presently on the South African Olympic team. Mateu has more than 200 fights under his belt, with only 6 losses in an amateur career that stretches back to 1991. He made the Olympic grade with a title-winning performance at a qualifying tournament in January in Morocco. However, coming home with or without a medal is irrelevant to the most important person in a man's life, his mother.
I'm so happy that my son is going to represent Soweto and South Africa. I wish him a good luck.
Mateu has the right people in his corner. South Africa has produced a string of world-class fighters. The country's greatest role model and most famous son, former President Nelson Mandela, was himself an amateur boxer and remains a keen fan of the sport. If you wish to be ringside to see about, there are 15 days of competition on the Olympic schedule. There are 2 sessions on most days. The day's bouts start at 1:30 p.m. and end at 4:30. The evening commences at 7:30 p.m. with the final bell ringing around 10:30. To football, and Iraq has secured Asia's 3rd and final berth as they came from behind to defeat Saudi Arabia 3-1 in their final Group C match. The final home game of the qualifying tournament played in Amman, the capital of neighbouring Jordan, due to security issues. With Kuwait and Oman cancelling each other out in a goalless draw, the Iraqis topped Group C, finishing ahead of the Omanis on goal difference to book their first trip to the Olympics since 1988. Iraq took control from the kick-off, but found themselves trailing after 21 minutes. However, the Saudi joy was short-lived as Iraq equalised in the 27th minute. Iraq continued to exert most of the pressure, with the Saudis content to sit back and play on the counter-attack. The Iraqi dominance finally reaped its reward as they took the lead for the first time. Salih taking advantage of some sloppy defending to score the crucial second goal. The Iraqis sealed the 3-1 win in the 89th minute when Hawa Mohammed fired home a powerful shot to secure Iraq's spot in Athens. The final whistle was the cue for delirious celebrations amongst the players, officials and fans as news filtered through of the stalemate in Kuwait City. Both the men's and women's football competitions will be hosted in 5 cities: Athens, Volos, Heraklio, Thessaloniki and Patras, with all finals being played in Athens. Competition will take place from the 11th of August, 2 days before the opening ceremony. The first of the 2 massive arches that will eventually hold a spectacular 18,000-tonne steel and carbon panel roof above the main Olympic Stadium has finally been pushed into place. Games organisers said the Western Arch, spanning 304 metres, travelled 70 metres before taking its final position around the main stadium, where the opening and closing ceremonies and the athletics events are to be held. Greece's Deputy Culture Minister, who is responsible for Olympic planning, reiterating that the operation went, thankfully, without a hitch.
With a big success, I would say. We had the first sliding of the Western Arc, and now we're going to have of the Eastern one. It's a huge target and a huge goal, because it's the biggest roof in the world. So the sliding was, I can say, everything was all right. And to the end of the month, it will be completed.
The gigantic white arch was slid along steel tracks, centimetre by centimetre, for 3 days before reaching its final position. Petralia also commented on an incident involving a British journalist who was detained by Greek police for entering Olympic facilities on a security expose. Laura Peake wandered around with extraordinary ease for several hours before being spotted, and her story with a photo of herself in a floodlit stadium eventually published in a front-page London Times article.
We proved that our security measures worked. And of course, we have to clarify that this is not the Olympic security, because in a few days we are going to lock, as we say, all the venues, and then the Olympic security will start the 1st of July, and it will be to the end of the Paralympics.
The second arch will be moved into position at the opposite side of the stadium, so the lattice blue translucent roof can cover the 55,000-seat arena. Organisers hope the roof, designed by award-winning Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava, will become the Athens Games' architectural legacy. Once finished, the roof will be the capital's tallest structure, towering 78 metres above the spectators. On the evening of the 13th of August, an estimated 4 billion people will be watching the opening ceremony of the Games of the 28th Olympiad. It marks the beginning of 16 days of cheers and tears that make an Olympic Games so special. At Return to Athens, we can't wait. US Olympic Committee officials have expressed concern about security in Athens, but dismissed any chance that they would not send a full contingent of athletes to the Games.
The threat of terrorism to affect the Olympic Games and to affect the outcomes of our athletes, I don't think as a country and as an Olympic Committee that we want to bow before that threat. And we will not put our athletes in harm's way, and we'll continue to assess the situation until the Games. But we believe that firmly our team will be there in Athens.
Committee members fielded a host of questions, including the possibility of heavy anti-American sentiment.
This is going to be a tough Games for us as a country, not only as individual athletes, administrators, and coaches. This is going to be tough.
Athletes took a similar view of the security threat, saying it was on their minds but trusted the organisers and the security plan.
You have to believe in the fact that the people that are being paid to make these decisions are doing it with the best intelligence possible. I know that, you know, no stone's going to be left unturned, that they're going to do everything in their power to ensure the safety of the athletes and of the spectators.
Mia's teammates were also in agreement.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous about it and that I haven't thought about it, but if I do take any energy and time away from concentrating on my sport, I'm not going to bring my best performance to the Olympics. And I've told my family to go, and I would never put them in any harm's way.
But the US image is still a concern.
We know the world today, their view of us isn't the highest, and we have to reflect that, I think, in everything we do in these games. This is an opportunity for, I think, our country to make a statement by the image we portray, by the demeanor and character of our athletes and coaches, day in and day out during those magical days for 16 days between August 13th and 29th, how they behave. I think that's all important.
While the concerns are real, ATHOC is adamant that every base will be covered when it comes to athlete and public safety. Judging by the atmosphere, you wouldn't have thought the major issue had already been resolved. Japan and Russia already securing 2 of the 4 berths for Athens. Pride, the only thing at stake. Japan looking to round off the tournament with their 100% record intact. But it soon became apparent, though, that the Russians weren't treating this as a practice match. They immediately took charge. The Japanese closed to 16-14 at one stage, but Nikolai Karpol's side pulled away to take the opener 25-20. And matters didn't improve for Japan. Russia surged into an 8-2 lead in the second set before the Japanese coach was forced to call a timeout. A revival promptly ensued, carrying the Japanese to within 2 points at 11-9. Now it was the Russian coach's turn to muster his troops. They cleared their heads and cruised to the second set 25-18. Beaten twice in 6 games, by South Korea and by Italy, both by 3 sets to 2, the Russians' desire to prove their credentials seemed stronger than Japan's wish to finish undefeated. With 204cm Ekaterina Gamova again in inspirational form, Russia completed a 3-set-0 whitewash by taking the third 25-19. In the earlier fixture, the pressure was off Italy and they were caught napping by Thailand. Trailing 8-7, Italian coach Marco Bonita pulled his team to the sidelines. His talk did the trick and the Italians went on to cruise to the first set 25-16. After that, the Italians were able to enjoy themselves at the expense of the Thais. They stormed to the second set 25-14 and brushed aside the Thai challenge in the third, going on to take that by the same scoreline. The 4 non-Asian sides participating in the 8-nation tournament were the highest-ranked non-qualified teams as per the world rankings. But those rankings meant little as 2 of the top teams failed to make the cut. By virtue of having lost less sets, 6-8, Japan finished top of the standings ahead of South Korea, both with 13 points. Russia's late blast took them into 3rd place, just ahead of Italy on 12 points. In an extraordinary backflip in fortunes, the IOC has forecast that Athens will be fully ready for August Games and should even be able to hold a full dress rehearsal. The IOC's praise was music to ATHOC's ears, who for years have endured a constant drumbeat of criticism about the pace of their preparations, including their security precautions, which came under a spotlight recently when 3 small bombs exploded without causing casualties near an Athens police station.
I have the impression it's higher here than over there.
Dennis Oswald, the International Olympic Committee's Chief Inspector of the Games, who on many previous inspection visits has left behind warnings about Athens' ability to be ready on time, clearly elated by the report.
In the past, we had doubts about some of the venues, or some of the infrastructure, some of the constructions, and I'm very happy to report that all these doubts have disappeared. As you know, we work with a dashboard with all the projects listed, and most of the time we had a lot of yellow spots, or sometimes even some red spots indicating that projects were at risk. And I can show you, I won't show you all the pages, but regarding constructions, there is a lot of green. Nearly everything is green, actually. And our experts have reviewed construction aspect, and they are very satisfied. No single project is at risk. And we know that everything will be delivered on time.
However, Oswald was bemused by Australian warnings that Greece is unsafe to travel to.
I must say I am surprised and also disappointed by the statements which have been made by the Australian government. I don't know if there is a misunderstanding, miscommunication, because Australia is part of the 7 countries advisory group, and they had a meeting 2 days ago. I was fully reported yesterday about the result of this meeting, and the assessment is positive by this advisory group. So again, I'm very surprised, and I can only explain it by a lack of communication.
And he went on to comment further on the recent bombings.
It did not happen in a secured Olympic-related area, and I think any of us in a residential area at 4 o'clock in the morning could just drop a bomb from a car and go away. This can happen everywhere, and this does not affect at all our assessment about security at the Games.
In a sign of their newfound confidence, Athens organisers were even able to admit during Oswald's visit that they indeed wasted the first 3 years of preparations, mainly because of political infighting about the awarding of major projects.
Spectators is here, so this is the distance of 500 metres.
Setting the scene for Oswald's praise, his visit began the day that builders had successfully started sliding the huge steel roof over the main Olympic Stadium, one of the IOC's biggest concerns. Athens Olympics chief Gianna Angelopoulos-Deskalaki said organisers had made up for lost time. Angelopoulos, who took over the top job in 2000 after the IOC warned Athens to speed up work or risk losing the Games, said everything will be in place. More than half the venues, as well as major infrastructure projects including new train and tram lines, are still weeks from completion, unlike previous Games when most preparations were in place months before the opening ceremony. But builders are working around the clock, and daily now the Athens landscape changes as projects are completed. The erection of the first arch above the stadium to hold the 18,000-tonne steel and carbon panel structure was a dramatic new addition to the Athens skyline. Over the coming days, the job will be one step closer to being completed as the bookend second arch is moved into position over the Games' main venue. As well as protecting the stadium from rain, the roof's carbon panels will provide protection against soaring summer temperatures and has crucial broadcasting and surveillance cameras attached to it. Leading British gymnast Beth Tweddle runs through her gymnastics routine, honing it ever closer to perfection for Athens. The 19-year-old took a silver medal home from the recent European Championships and is hoping to build on that success. Getting close to winning your Olympic gold takes time and money, so Beth has become one of a number of lesser-known athletes in the United Kingdom being sponsored by internet service provider UK Online.
We're going to be tracking the success both leading up to and actually at the games themselves on our website, ukonline.net. And you'll be able to hear a little bit more about how Beth and how some of the other athletes are getting on the site as we get closer to the Olympics.
The company is also getting athletes like Beth to supply a diary in the run-up to and during the Olympic competition.
So much of how these guys perform in that one split second is how well they prepare. So we'll be following that really closely and giving them all the support we can.
Being online is also helping British gymnasts get a wider coverage for their sport, especially when they're competing overseas.
Obviously, we're not a well-known sport. Football, all them ones take over. When we're away competing, we don't get much coverage. So it's good for us, for them, to follow us. When we're going abroad, people can follow us online, check how we're getting on, because people can't always follow us around the world to watch us.
Having already achieved bronze in the World Championships and silver medals in the European competition, Beth hopes to go one better, along with the British Olympic gymnastics team.
Now that I've won the European and world medals, the judges are starting to recognise that me as a gymnast and Great Britain as a nation are starting to move up in the gymnastics world. We weren't always known for it, but this weekend we took 5th as a team placing, which is our highest team ever, so it's put Great Britain in great stead for the Olympics.
Time now for us to log off for this edition, but remember to keep watching Return to Athens as we bring you the latest in the behind-the-scenes news and views in the lead-up to Athens 2004.